Okay, one of the problems we identified with the MP15, and it's not really a problem, it's just something we didn't care for, was that the front end was a little bit heavy for Miss Nancy. I bought a Bipod and Scope from M1 Surplus online. It's just a little two-legged affair. Right here you can see it. It mounts up inside of the heat shield. Pretty slick. This guy here will go up in here like this. Then you gotta spin that down on there. Okay, so to mount this on here, when you get this, it doesn't make any sense how to mount it. I had to watch some videos online and kind of figured it out. This little guy is a nut plate. It's going to go on the lead edge of the gun. It's going to go down in these holes. It's got to sit across a couple of the riser plates in there, like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to thread this fellow right onto that swivel stud that sticks out. And one thing that every single person on the web had said was, don't put this on too tight. It's just plastic. You don't want to break it. There you go. And you want the legs facing forward. To make this all work and tighten up, you can tighten this screw back up right here. And that will give you your seating where it'll seat it back down into the well. So there, she's on there pretty good. Now all we got to do is get this ring back and get it back on. You know, if you knew any sailing songs, this would be the time to sing them. Or if you like to swear, this might be a good opportunity for you to get some of that done too. I have to say though that the heat shield goes back on way better than it comes off. Okay, so there we go. We've got the legs on. Look at that. It looks really good. Feels really good. You can shoot. Next thing to do is mount the scope. You can push them back in. The legs are back in there. You can still put it in your hand. You're not going to burn your hand. Still got a good grip on it. But when you're at the range and you're target practicing, rather than having a gun rest, you've got one built in right there. You can put it right up on those legs and shoot all you want. Feels really good, actually. I think Miss Nancy's really going to dig this. All right, in the last video where we took the first look at the MP4 Sport, second generation Sport, we talked about the iron sight a little bit. It's got this Magpul iron sight on it. Perfectly adequate for 50 yards. I was able to get most of my shots where I thought I needed them. I could definitely use some more practice with the gun, get my shots in where they need to go. One of the things we'd mentioned was that we'd like to put on a scope. While I was up looking around on Amazon, I came across a Trinity Force 1:4 power by 24 micro red dot red green blue illumination scope. It came with a red dot sight on it actually on top. Don't know how good it is. This is the unit here. And you can see on the bottom it's got cam locks to mount it right on top of this rail. The problem is when you mount it on top of this rail, you don't have any room back here at the back to adjust this and open the cap. We're right down on top of that Magpul sight. Right out of the box, that's a problem. So I figured that I'd better get out and find a solution for it. The solution for this problem would seem to be a Picatinny style 3/4 inch riser mount. It's about 4 inches long. My scope mount's about 3 inches long. My thinking is I can put it on here, it'll raise everything up and give me the clearance I need over this back sight, over the Magpul sight. Because I could take that Magpul sight off, but if I'm out hunting, shooting, doing something with the rifle, and something happens to my scope and I don't have my back sight on there anymore, kind of hosed. I could shoot like in a video game. Yeah, that would work really good, wouldn't it? I don't think any amount of shouting, "Get to the chopper!" and spraying bullets indiscriminately into the field is going to take care of my objectives when I'm out with the rifle. So I think I want to have a backup system, and that backup system is obviously my iron sights. Man, this True Glow riser feels really solid. It's very nicely machined. I want to say it was like maybe 20 bucks. I've seen them for $12. They're made out of resin though. Might be good. Might not be good. So you just open it up really wide, slip it over the top. Some of the other sights that they make have to be slipped on from the back, so you almost have to take the gun apart or take the sight off, put it on there, and then put your sight back on there. My sight is sighted in really good right now, and I don't want to monkey around with that. See, if I pop the scope off, I can still get a good sight picture down it. Yeah, perfect. I'm going to keep the rear Magpul sight on it. Something to think about when you're mounting this up on top of here is how much eye relief you're going to need. How far back do you have to be? That's going to determine whether you mount it fairly far forward or fairly far back. If you can get a good sight picture with it wherever it's at, far out, man, you're in business. I like these cam lock levers. They're kind of like bicycle tires. You push them in, tighten them up as much as you can, then pinch them. They should be perfect. There we go. We're dead on now. Let's pop that off. Pop that open. Looks good. Feels right. Oh yeah, perfect. So there you go. You've got your scope right here. It's kind of grubby from me wrestling around on the bench here. You've got your scope on the bottom. Okay, so you've got the knob right here. It's got 3 levels of brightness for each of the colors on the center dot, red, blue, and green. I don't know how useful that is to you. I don't shoot a whole lot in low light conditions. I don't really shoot a whole lot with sport rifle at this point yet at all, but I'm looking forward to it. So it might be really handy if I'm out shooting coyotes or something late at night. On top, it's got a little red dot sight. How well does it work? Heck, I don't know. It's got a little cover. I'm not real crazy about this cover. You put it on, and it just falls off. I got to come up with a way to make it last better. Maybe put a piece of electrical tape or something around the inside to act like a seal and hold it on better so it doesn't get lost in the brush. I might use that if I'm out shooting coyotes or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'll use it for. I don't know if I will. It's got plenty of adjustments on it, so I believe you can make it just as sturdy and accurate as you want it to be. Either way, it looks cool, and 90% of the time, I think that's what people are going for with these rifles. We'll take it out in the field and see how functional it is, and we'll talk about that once we get her dialed in. Okay, it's Saturday. The weather's pretty good. I got the optics and stuff mounted to the gun. Let's go up to the range, see how she does. We're back from the range. I took the rifle up there and put her through her paces, sighted in the scope as best I could. I really identified a need for a spotting scope. My binoculars just weren't up to the task as much as I'd like to, so at 100 yards it was kind of sketchy. There was a whole lot of squinting and grunting going on. I tested out the red dot sight. This is my first experience with a red dot sight, and to be quite honest, I'm not very impressed. If you think about the laser in the red dot sight, that laser right here is very tiny, but as you get out at 50 yards, it looks pretty big. It's probably, I bet, 5 inches across. That's immense. You get out to 100 yards, it takes up most of the sheet of paper. So a red dot sight is really pretty useless much past 21 feet. I'm going to say maybe 10 yards you could use it, and you might hit something. It's not staying on the gun. I'm going to take it off. I'm told there's sights with a better laser on them, a laser that's much smaller, more fine pinpoint, so they look better downrange. This one isn't a whole lot of help to me, and it's just adding weight, and it's something I got to worry about banging into everything. Now, how did the scope do? That was kind of the whole purpose going up there, was having a look at the scope and seeing how she was going to hold up. You know, to be quite honest, I think the scope did okay. It's all right for what it is. I'm not sure that it's better than the scope I have on my Squirrel sniper rifle on my pellet gun, but it's all right. It's probably worth what I paid for it. I like the legs. The legs were a big plus out on the range. With a 30-round clip in it, she sits way too tall. So if you're running the full 30-round clip on this and you're trying to use the legs to sight stuff in, when you stop shooting and you want to set the gun down and let it rest, it won't sit like this. That 30-round magazine lifts this up and it makes it kind of tippy. What I would suggest is if you're going to use the 30-round magazine, get a piece of 1x stock and cut yourself a little block of wood you can set this on in the back. It'll be much more stable on your bench rest. Most of the time, though, when I shoot this, for hunting, I'm going to use it with a 10-round magazine. The 30-round magazine is just far too big, far too many bullets, and it looks ridiculous. It's just more weight I got to drag around. I can carry 4 10-round magazines, and I'll have plenty of ammunition. I can keep it in my day pack. I'll be all right. So how did it work once I got her up there? Well, once we got her up there, I was way off of the cardboard. I took a huge piece of cardboard, too, it was a piece of cardboard left over from a gun safe. So it was a gun safe box. It was probably 5x4. The scope was just on the cardboard, but it was probably 2.5 feet off at 100 yards. So I ended up having to move it around, get it in. The biggest problem I had this weekend, there were two problems with it, with me sighting this in. One was that the wind was blowing like stink. If I had a toupee, I would have been chasing it constantly. Instead, I just have a bald spot and it doesn't blow away. The other part of it that was kind of a problem was when the wind would blow, my windage would go off. You know, and it's really a pain in the neck trying to sight in a scope when the wind's blowing your shots all over. So here's where we ended up at. So when I first started shooting and I got it on the paper, I was over here, but I was a little bit high. So I brought it down. I was a little bit low. Then the wind kicked up and it went way over here. So I was able to bring that back. I finally did get it sighted in where I was able to put it into probably 1.5 inch diamond at 100 yards. I was able to do that fairly reliably. When the wind would cooperate, there were some pretty strong gusts that were moving the target and moving my bullets around. I could barely see the 200-meter target with my wee little spotting glasses. They're more for going out and spotting game, for scouting game off of a ridge. They're not really for doing this. So I need to change that up before I go back out and try and spot this in a little bit closer. That being said, moving forward, my plan is this guy's coming off. I'm going to leave that rail up there on top empty. I'm going to keep this, clean it up. The gun's still filthy from coming back from the range. I didn't clean it. I know that's sacrilege, but I need to do that. The other thing I added to it that I thought I needed, and you guys might or might not agree with this, but I'm an old guy. When I was in the Army, my MOS was 11 Bravo. I got to have a strap. I'm not going to carry this thing around. There's no handle on it, but I like a strap. The MP15 is interesting because most have swivels. Now, on this one, you can see here's the strap mount on the front. No swivel. It's just that. Well, when I put the legs on, they have a swivel underneath that I could mount a strap to. In the back, same thing, except it doesn't move at all. It's just a mounting point for a strap. Strap I initially bought was a pretty good strap, and it has these kind of swivels. You can hook these onto wherever you have a swivel at. And I do like that it's got this pad. This pad helps to take some of the pressure off, because this thing will kind of chew on you a little bit if you're having to hump around a lot. I know this from experience. So what I did was I found another strap at Amazon that I thought would work pretty good. And what I needed was a way to get it hook onto this back hoop back here, the back loop, without putting a ring or something on it that would rattle and scare off game. I found this strap that has holes burnt through it, and it has like a screw connector that you can screw these down so you can put it on there and screw it down. The front part, I took this and backed it all the way out, backed this all the way out through it, threaded on the other loop off of my other strap that I'd bought, which is one of these. I threaded it onto the front, put that back in there, and I was able to hook it up to my bipod. So, while it's not optimal, it was a pretty cheap solution because straps are pretty cheap. You can spend $150 on a dang rifle strap or a sling and be like one of these numbskulls that thinks he's Jim Tactical's junior SWAT team member. But to be honest, I want to have a good secure handle on my gun when I'm out shooting it. You can also use these straps, put it around your arm, and help steady the gun a little bit if you're shooting from a different position other than prone. It's an old military trick. So anyway, my feelings on the gun. I love this gun. It's a cool gun, man. If you are thinking about buying one, do it. If you're thinking about buying optics, and you probably should. I mean, you want to shoot out a ways, and you're thinking about buying the Trinity Force Assault 1-4 Power X24 Micro Red Dot Red Green Blue Illumination kit here. Man, I would say that if you're going to do it, and you've only got a little bit of bread, go ahead and buy it. It'll probably be okay for that. But if you can possibly afford something better, get something better. You're going to be happier with it. This is passable. It's okay. I'm going to leave it on there for this season. I may end up replacing it later on. But for right now, I've spent all my gun money on it. So it's what I got, and it's what I'm going to use. It could be a lot better. There's a few improvements you can make to it. But it is what it is. A bigger scope means more money, means it's heavier. Like I said in the other video, I want to keep the weight of this down so Miss Nancy can shoot it. And I think we're kind of real close to that crossroads right there. I'm going to pull that red dot sight off, and I think we're going to call her good for the season. Next couple videos I make will hopefully be out me chasing some coyotes around, because we got a bunch of dang coyotes. A lot of missing cats too. I wonder if there's a correlation. Anyway, there you go. That's a second look at the MP15. Cool gun. Despite the hysteria that's out there, it's a pretty reliable little unit. Runs like it's supposed to. I've got no complaints whatsoever. Peace.